Hey y'all, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. Or if you're new around here and just finding my channel, hello and welcome. My name is Katie Marie. I love to talk about eyeshadow palettes. I love to play with eyeshadow palettes, and today I'm super excited to be sharing with you guys a brand new eyeshadow palette that is about to hit the market. As you saw from the title, it is Nomad Cosmetics' newest palette, and it's limited edition for the holidays, but it is their Santa's Village eyeshadow palette, and it is a gorgeous kind of, I can't pronounce that word. It's Aurora Borealis? Aurora Borealis? I can't pronounce it, but it is a gorgeous show of it, and the packaging itself is like holographic, so as you turn, you really get that effect of it, and it's absolutely stunning. So, newest palette from Nomad Cosmetics, they are launching this just limited edition for the holidays, a little 9-pan palette that, as you can see, is just a perfect little Christmas palette. There are 4 matte eyeshadows and the rest are shimmers, and the shimmers themselves are more of an iridescent duochrome, maybe multichrome, but I think it's a duochrome. You guys know I'm not an expert there, but I think they're definitely iridescent, but they're the type of duochromeness to them that just makes them so beautiful on the eyes. So super excited to try this out and see if the formula is as good as Nomad Cosmetics' typical formulas, how I like their shimmers, because they always have different type of formulas when it comes to their shimmers. Some I really love, some I really don't. So I was curious to see how I would like these, and yeah, just to see what I thought about this palette. So I'll go ahead and stick on the screen here right now and give you guys all the information I have for the launch of this palette. I'll also leave Nomad's website linked down below in the description box if you would like to check them out and possibly pick this up when it does launch, but I'm going to try to get this video up before launch day, just so you have time to check out the looks, to look at more reviews, to decide if you need to pick it up, that type of thing, because it is, as I said, limited edition. Yeah, today I'm going to be playing with this eyeshadow palette. I created 3 looks. I swatched it on my eyes, and I'm going to do this video a little bit different than I've done recently when it comes to my 3 looks or multiple looks, 1 palette review videos. And typically I would do like the get ready with me, and then I would show you the 2 additional looks I created, but I'm going to swap it around. That way I could show you guys the 2 looks that I did, and then for the third and final look, which is what I have on my eyes, I'm going to do it on camera live so you guys can see it and we can talk about it, and that's where I'm going to give you guys my review for this palette. So as I'm talking and as I'm using each of the shadows, I'll tell you guys what I think about the matte formula, the shimmer formula, how they blend, all that sort of thing. So let me know if you like this new style. I think it'll just flow better and make more sense for me when I'm putting it together, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So with that intro out of the way, why don't we go ahead and just jump right into the swatches of this palette and just do arm swatches, and then from there we'll roll into the 2 other looks that I created. And for the swatches and 2 looks, I'm just going to do music overlay so you guys can watch it and see how it applies on the eyes and see the looks that I do, and then we'll end with the 3rd look, and then we'll meet back here at the end to give you guys my final thoughts. So with that said, let's get into it. so I just primed with my Glam Light eyeshadow primer, and let's dive into the palette. This is the third look that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to share with you guys my review as I put the eyeshadows on my eyes. You'll have to let me know what you think about this new style of doing my 3 looks 1 palette. But anyway, here's the palette. We've done 2 looks already. I want to see if I can focus on this shade right here. It has a little bit, it's like, I thought it was black when I first got it, but as you guys saw in the swatches and whatnot, maybe, hopefully it comes across on camera, but it has a little bit of green to it. So I want to focus on this and really blend with this to see if I can get that green to pop, and I might put red in my crease, just the inner portion of my crease. And then as far as the shimmers, I think I'm going to use the shades that I haven't really used yet, which, if memory serves me correctly, which doesn't always serve me correctly, but you know, I try. I think it's just this shade that I haven't used all over, so I definitely want to use this, and then I'll see whatever I want to combine with it. We'll see. They all have such beautiful shifts. I am not very good at being able to show those shifts, but I tried in the swatches. Anyway, I'm gonna grab, let's see, let me grab a bit of a fluffier packer brush. I'll go with the E25, and I'm just gonna dip into Fir Tree, and let's see. I know that first look I packed it on, but I also ended up taking the gray on top, because like I said, I thought it was just a black. So I took the gray on top, and I think that really just kind of solidified the blackness to really stand out on my outer corner. So I want to see if I really pack this on and do some blending, if I can get any kind of greenness to stand out, because you guys know I love a good green. So I think if I had matte greens to pair with it, this would, you know, kind of show up and look more like a green, but I don't think it's gonna really stand on its own 2 feet as a green. Oh well. We're still going to use it out here in the outer corner, and I think I'll put the red in the inner corner because that's kind of different from what I have done for my previous looks. But let's go ahead and talk about the shadows. I think they are per usual when it comes to Nomad Cosmetics shadows. They are pigmented, they are smooth, they're easy to work with. I tend to go in pretty light because I prefer to kind of build up and have kind of wiggle room, because I'm pretty heavy-handed, so if I go on with a lot on my brush, as you can see, like, I tend to really press them in. So if I go on with a lot on my brush, I feel like I make a mess very quickly. So like I said, yeah, I just take a tiny bit at a time, and I never have an issue with like building it up or getting it to be as deep as I want the dark shades to go. And also, as you can see, I'm going to be using this to pack it on here, but I also feel like with Nomad Cosmetics shadows, and then, you know, the ones in here, specifically the darker ones in here, I'm able to blend them out and kind of do the work of like what you would typically use a couple different shades of varying hues on your eyes to get the kind of seamless blend. I feel like with a little bit of extra work, I can get that same type of look on my eyes pretty easily with this formula, because it's just such a beautiful formula. So I was catching this side up, and I totally forgot that I was going to do a halo eye. That way I could use one of these shimmers. I think we'll just go with that middle shade. That'll look really pretty, and maybe we'll put a touch of red between. But let's go ahead. I'm not an expert when it comes to halo eyes, so don't take lessons from me, but this is what I do when I do a halo eye. And don't think it looks horrible. I'm just not very good at it. I don't know. I always struggle with the shape of knowing what type of shape to do. Oh, and of course my eyes are a little bit watery with my allergies, so probably not the best day to put matte on my inner portion of my eye. Oh well. Totally forgot about that. So if it's a little rough here, it's totally gonna be my fault. I'll do my best to blend it out. But yeah, this shade is so nice. And the same with the gray. Of course, it's a bit softer. And like I said, if you put the gray on top of this color, it shows up like just kind of a true black, but I think you can kind of see a little bit of that green. I don't know if it's going to show up well on camera because it is a dark color. It just might just look dark black, but in person I can tell, like looking at it, that's not like it's not a black in my eyes. Like it definitely looks like it's got that kind of green element to it. So at this point, I guess I'll just connect it a little bit. Let me go ahead and take that a clean brush, and I'm going to take that lightest shade, which is White Christmas. This shade I'm not the biggest fan of. I mean, honestly, it is kind of like an off-white, like can't even really describe it as gray. It's, I would say off-white, but it's just so light of a shade, and maybe it's my skin tone, but it's so light of a shade, and it's that off-whitish color that honestly I'm gonna do this for a while, but I never feel like I can really see it. So it's a good type of shadow for me if I'm wanting to soften out maybe something it's a little too harsh like in here and I want to soften out that line. It's a nice shadow for that. But as far as like, I don't know, moving a color story or an eye look that I'm doing forward and kind of helping to, you know, get more saturation or helping with the blend. I mean, I guess it does help with the blend of a color, but it doesn't add anything to a look, I guess. It's not like another color I can, you know, use to create looks with. It's just a color I can use to soften it out. So definitely not my favorite in the palette, especially since there's only 4 mattes, but I don't know, I guess it's a nice matte. Like I said, it's such a light color. I almost can't see, I can't really see it on my eyes. Like as I'm blending it, it's like, oh, I think I see something there. But honestly, I could just be mistaken. It's just so very light. So I wouldn't have minded if there was another shade in here besides this white, but I do understand why it's in there because it is Christmas themed and white snow. I get it, but I don't know. Those are my thoughts on the white in this palette. Definitely not my favorite, but let me catch this eye up and then we'll move on. All right, so at this point, I'm going to put some glitter primer on the center of my lid like this, just to help it pop more and also to help it stay. Let's move over and talk about the shimmers for a little bit. The shimmers are really pretty. There is no denying they're pretty. They, however, kind of feel and remind me of the Simply Posh Cosmetics Fairy Tale Fairies palette. Mainly probably because I just reviewed that one not too long ago, but it really does remind me of, in the way that it's difficult to pick up on a brush. It's best to use your finger, the way that it feels when you touch it with your finger, and then also just the way it applies. It really reminds me of that formula from the Fairy Tale Fairies palette. So they're not my favorite shimmers in the world to work with because of that. So I'm going to first start with this Dose of Colors concealer brush. I'm going to pick up that shade in the middle. Really pretty. It's like gold and maybe a little reddish tone. We're going to see all of the different shifts. And let's put it on so you guys can see what it's like to pick up with this type of very flat brush. So I'm really kind of digging in there with my brush. There is no flakiness that comes out. It almost seems like a really firmly packed Super Shock shadow. Like when you touch it, it almost has that wet feel, has a really slick feel to it when you touch it with your finger, but it's not as soft to the touch and it won't like really collapse on itself and kind of be squishy like the Super Shocks unless you're really pushing in there. So as you can see, like you're putting it on, there's stuff going on there, but I feel like for how impressive it looks in the pan, it doesn't really look that impressive just using a brush, using this flat brush. So let me change it up to a more dense brush like this, a small shadow brush, the L221 brush from Stilazzi. Pick it up again, kind of really stabbing in there. A little bit more seems to be picking up. And then I'm gonna press it down. I don't know. I don't feel like that's very impressive. Like you can see it shows some sparkle. It's very pretty. It's more of a subtle kind of sparkle to it, but not as intense as it shows in the pan. So now I'm gonna go into my little sponge tip applicator. Just like with my finger, I'll use my finger in a minute, but just to show you kind of the difference with just a sponge tip applicator, if you're someone who doesn't like to get your fingers dirty. Now we're gonna put it on this spot. I should look for, if you know of one, let me know, but like a larger sponge tip applicator, just because these little guys take forever. They're great for inner corner or just like putting it on a little spot, but they take a long time if I want to put it all over my lid. But there, I feel like that looks a lot more intense than what I had. So just to save time, I'm going to take my finger now and let's just pop it in there like so. See, with my finger I have no precision. I got a little chunk there. I wouldn't call it flaky though, because like I said, it has a slick feel, not a slimy, but a very slick, almost slippery feel to it when you're touching it in with your finger. I'm trying to diffuse it out, like so on the sides. Yeah, it's like a pinky reflect to the gold. It's like gold, but when you turn to the side, I see some pink in there. So anyway, gonna pack this on there, and I think that shows a big difference with like how this looks as opposed to how it was looking when I was just using a brush. There's really no comparison. So I think with this palette specifically, if you're someone who doesn't like using your finger or doesn't want to use a little sponge tip applicator, but you want it to show up like this intense, you're gonna be fighting with it unless you want to get your fingers dirty. So if you really don't like using your fingers, this might not be the palette for you, because all of the shimmers in here are this kind of duochrome iridescent or multichrome duochrome, I don't know, but it's the iridescent type of formula that's very slick and just not friendly with brushes, put it that way. It's not the easiest to pick up and apply with a brush unless you want, like I was showing in the beginning, that very subtle type of look. So there is that. So pretty. I will say once it's on your eyes, it's like super pretty. I like how smooth it is, because like I was saying, you would almost look at this and expect it to be super flaky, but it's not. It has that weird slick feel to it, and then especially when you use your finger, because you're kind of pressing it on with your finger, it really like smooths the shadow down, so it doesn't really have a bunch of flakiness, and it stays on pretty darn well. I still get a lot of transfer. However, yesterday when I did a look, I forget which one it's going to be in the order. Sometimes I switch them up or whatnot when I'm doing the tutorials. But anyway, one of the looks, after I finished my look and before I left my makeup table, I actually put a little bit of glitter primer serum on top of it, just patted it over. And there was the teeniest bit of sparkle like in my crease right here, but it didn't go any higher. And then the other time that I wore it, I had sparkle kind of like all over the place, above, kind of like up about here. It wasn't in my brows, but it was pretty high. So I was really happy that the kind of primer or glitter primer serum trick worked really well at keeping it in place. So if you don't mind that extra step, these can be pretty bulletproof and not really transfer. And I didn't see any fallout when I did that primer serum trick onto my face at all either, which I was really happy about. I think maybe the reason I typically don't do halo eyes is because I feel like you can only use one shimmer, and I'm someone who typically likes to use more than one shimmer when it comes to my eye looks. There's gonna be a touch of red up here in my crease, because for a moment there, I'm gonna cut it out so you guys won't see it, but I thought about putting red in the middle part of my my crease there, but I didn't want it to look pink. I want the red to really stand out, so I decided to change my mind, and I just covered it. So touch of pink still remains, but it's fine. I really don't care. I'm just gonna take more of that white and kind of blend it over. And this is pretty much gonna be it for the top of my look. The reflectiveness of it is so beautiful, and like I said, for it being one of those shadows that's a little bit tricky to put on, it's super like, looks flaky when you look at it in the pan and on your eyes. However, if you use your finger, you get a really smooth application, and I like that. And also as you wear it throughout the day, it doesn't look super flaky and like crackly like as some really intense shadows can look. So I like that aspect of it. So with these shimmers, I'm kind of like a love-hate relationship. I really don't like how much effort it takes to apply. Just personally, it's just a bit of a high maintenance, so too high maintenance for me and my preferences. However, they are beautiful once you put them on. Let's go ahead and use this shade. This one right here, it's called Peace. Let's do that for the inner corner. This one, oh, the first look that I did, I used this kind of to cut the crease as my first shimmer on the lid, and it was so beautiful, so intense. I love this kind of blue-purple iridescent shadow. It's really, really pretty. And also, you know, this palette will be nice, obviously, as a companion palette, because these shimmers are really, really pretty. And if you're someone who doesn't like the kind of, you like the intensity of these type of shadows, but you typically don't like how like flaky and messy they are and difficult they are to apply. I mean, these still are kind of difficult, as I've been saying. You really do need to use your finger to get them to show up. However, they're not super, you know, flaky and chunky and messy in the pan, and they have that slick feel to them, that kind of, something about one of the ingredients in there that gives it that slickness, that helps bind everything together. That is, I think, different from like Adept Cosmetics and their really special shadows that are just really flaky, or like Odin's Eyes, really flaky shadows that are just difficult to apply. They make a mess in the pan, they make a mess on your eye, that sort of thing. These don't. They have just such a nice, slick, like I said, they feel like a Super Shock, but they're more firm touching and firm to like move around and whatnot, and firm to apply than a Super Shock. I hope it's making sense. Look at that. So I hope that was helpful when it came to the shimmers. Like I said, they're such a unique formula, and I think I'm gonna have to use it a couple more times and maybe play with it with another palette, like more mattes, and just reach for these shimmers to kind of decide how I like it. Because I feel like I was describing them like the Fairy Tale Fairies shadows, except those even were like more messy than these, if that helps you any. Like when you're applying them, touching them, wearing them, they're more messy. These, while they do make some mess on your eyes, not to say that they stay put and don't ever like travel anywhere or have any fallout, they can. There's still just something about them that makes them a little less messy than I feel like a lot of these type of very special and intense shadows do, or give on the eyes, or have on the eyes, however you say that. You know what? Let me try to use one of these as my highlight, because I forgot to put highlighter on. So let's do that, and then we'll move to the lower lash line. I'm going to take this shade, which is Rudolph. little bit pinky. Let me just take a teeny bit because I don't know. I feel like this might give a little bit of a shadow. Oh, and it also might not really want to pick up because, like I was saying, it's a little bit more firmly pressed. Can you see it? I hope I'm not too washed out. I see sparkle, but as far as like highlight, I don't really see it. So maybe these don't work really well. I'm trying to like stab into the brush and then kind of pat down. I see some, it just looks like I have a wash of glitter, but nothing like a proper sparkle should be, if that makes sense. I'm gonna take my Kaleidos Gifted highlighter. I think this will look pretty, kind of what I was going for. Let's put that on top and just, let's put that on top here and just kind of go over that, like so. All right, let's do the lower lash line and let's do that red since we haven't got to play with that red at all here. We're going to stick that red nice and pigmented on the lower lashes. And I'm just going to kind of put it right like this. This shade, just like the gray and that dark green, is nicely pigmented. It can stain a little bit, and even when I say it's stained, it was just like the tiniest hint. Like I've had some eyeshadows go on and stain my eyelids and they were like bright pink or bright purple, whatever the case was. I've had some intense staining, but honestly this was just, I knew where the eyeshadow was placed and I could tell it was a little bit stained there, just a little bit tinted. Wasn't a big deal though, didn't bother me. So I'm gonna do that, and then let's go ahead and go back into that dark green. I'm gonna put on a more tinier, flatter brush, is basically not really a tinier brush, but a flatter brush. And I'm going to kind of connect it right here. Like I said, I'm not typically comfortable or familiar or very good at doing halo eyes. I want to add a little bit of the gray to the pink because it just looks a little crazy when I look at my viewfinder. So let's take that gray, which is Elf. This shade also beautiful, absolutely stunning. I mean all the mattes except for that really light color I'm a big fan of and is just as like beautiful as I expect to find in a Nomad palette. And I'm always happy when companies come out with like limited edition. A lot of times mainstream, maybe it's just mainstream brands giving everyone a bad rap, but mainstream brands like to take and cut a lot of corners to give us like cutesy packaging with like really bad formulas, like worse than their usual formulas. So that's kind of like what I always kind of go in wondering, like, is this going to be like we expect from this brand, or is it going to be less of a good formula because they're wanting to cut costs for the holidays type of thing. So I'm glad to see that Nomad kept to their usual formula when it came to the mattes. And with the shimmers, I feel like it's a bit of a new formula for them. I don't know formulas. I'm really bad at that. I hate to say like, yes, it's a new formula, because maybe it's not, and maybe they just pressed it differently, but it definitely seems like, oh wait, that's the wrong brush. That's from a different green eyeshadow. Anyway, it definitely seems like it's a bit different. There's more firmness and slickness to the feel of the intense shimmers than I feel like I've noticed from them. And for it being such a beautiful, intense type of eyeshadow and like shimmer eyeshadow, I like it. Does this make me like love this formula and want to use this type of eyeshadow formula all the time? No, just because it is, you gotta use your fingers, and I'm just not a fan of using my fingers. I feel like I say that all the time. However, for it being in this palette, for needing to create looks with it, I feel like I enjoyed it. I like how smooth I was able to get it. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish out this look, put some mascara on, put on a good lip color so that I don't look quite so crazy. Like the red on the lower lash line might not have been the best decision, but I like what's going on top. So we'll stick with that, but I'll put some mascara on. That'll help it, and maybe I'll put some red in my waterline. Maybe that'll tie it all together. Maybe it'll make it worse. I don't know. But that's pretty much all I wanted to kind of review for the eyeshadows. Let me go finish out this look and then we can close out this video. Alright, so I finished out the look with a bold red lip. I think it matches. I'm not really sure if the shirt is kind of clashing with it, but we're gonna go with it for this video. Anyway, I'm gonna stick up close-ups of this eyeshadow look just so you guys can see what it looks like, you know, up close, and hopefully you guys can see the detail with the shimmers and whatnot, and then also just farther away as I'm turning my head and whatnot. Hopefully the close-ups are helpful for you guys. But overall, this is a really cute palette. Does it blow my socks off? Is it one of my favorite palettes from Nomad Cosmetics? Honestly, no. You guys are, in the month of November, going to see a ranking of Nomad palettes from me. I have 11 palettes from Nomad Cosmetics. I have a pretty big collection, and I'm so excited to rank them for you in November, but stay tuned for that. Anyway, I'm not going to say it's my favorite. It's definitely not even like my top 5 favorite. And I mean, part of it is due to the fact that it's a small palette. It's just 9 pans. It's just 9 eyeshadows. So it's a little bit limiting, but also too, like I was saying during the review. I'm not crazy about having just a white eyeshadow in there because I feel like it just doesn't do much on my skin, so it's really only these shadows. I wish this one had more of a pack to punch with the green. Then it would have been a little bit more versatile, having a nice solid red, a nice dark green, and then a gray that I could use if I wanted more of just a regular black and just a solid black instead of a dark green, that type of thing. But the shimmers are beautiful. Combining them, if you're someone who likes to go simple with your mattes, but you like your shimmers to just be like show-stopping and beautiful and sparkly and just have all the shifts as you turn, I think you'll like this palette. But you guys know for me personally, that's not my favorite type of eyeshadow or favorite type of shimmer to go for. So I think that's why for me personally this palette didn't blow my socks off or didn't, you know, climb to the top 5 of my favorite Nomad eyeshadow palettes. But I can't deny that the quality is really nice and the looks that you get with this palette are really cute. So hopefully my review is helpful for you guys as you're looking at this palette and trying to decide if you want to pick it up or not. Those are my thoughts on the newest Santa's Village palette from Nomad Cosmetics. So that is going to do it for me for this video. As always, I hope this was helpful for you guys. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Are you planning to pick this up? Do you like Christmas themed eyeshadow palettes? You know, something with reds and greens and, you know, stuff that reminds you of snow and all the sparkle and that type of thing? Do you like to have those palettes in your collection for the holiday season as we're getting close to Christmas and whatnot? Let me know that down below in the comments. I'd love to hear that's something you like to wear on your eyes as you approach the holiday season. But yeah, with that said, that is going to do it for me. As always, I'm over on Instagram, LadyKD92 over there. I post reels, up close eye pictures, all that sort of thing. And yeah, with all that said, I think this is going to be the last video you see before we start CUTEST, which is daily uploads all month long in November, hopefully. I have in my intro hashtag mom life because I might miss a day, and it's because mom life comes first. But anyway, it's gonna be starting here soon, so I'm super excited about that. Next video you guys are gonna see, we're gonna start CUTEST and daily uploads during the month of November. So hopefully I'll see you there. But until then, bye guys.